This week was long, and I eagerly awaited rest at home with a cold beer and possibly pizza. I placed the suitcase by the door and rushed to the kitchen for my first beer. The house seemed unusually quiet as I opened a Budweiser Light. Then I realized that the damn dog was not by my side. It was quite unusual. Normally, she greeted me at the door, growling and threatening with her bare fangs. I started carrying a treat in my pocket to persuade her to let me into her home. Why did I have a dog that almost hated me? I pondered the situation, looking for the dog. I remembered the day, about 6 weeks ago, when my wife brought the dog home. This is Marge. She's Tim's bitch, but we'll keep her with us for a while. When you get to know her better, you'll see she's actually sweet, insisted my loving wife while the dog sniffed my leg. I suppose the obvious question is, why? If I wanted a dog, I would buy a Labrador, I grumbled, nudging the dog to move away from my ankle. Marge, off, commanded my wife Margaret, as our guest bit my calf quite hard. At Margaret's command, she released me but kept her muzzle uncomfortably close to my now bleeding calf. Tim has trained her very well. She listens to me perfectly. I think I'll feel safer with her, especially at night. Why the hell doesn't Tim keep her at his place? I asked, rolling up my trouser leg to inspect the bite wounds on my leg. I don't want this mud to stay here. She bit me, for God's sake. She won't bother you if you behave politely. Tim says pit bulls got a bad reputation because of a few idiots who didn't train their dogs properly. He can't keep her because he has an adult male dog. This morning he was going to mate with Marge, but Tim stopped him. He said it would be better to keep them apart until the bitch grows up. He will decide when Marge is ready. I don't understand why we have to keep this damn aggressive dog just because your boss is too stupid to own both a male and a female pit bull. Tell Tim I'm against it, I demanded. Well, you kicked her, and Marge clung to it so quickly that you didn't even have time to react, Margaret chuckled. The dog stays. I promised Tim we would take care of her. Thus began another reign of terror from yet another mangy bitch in my house. I had to be careful not to make sudden movements or get too close to my wife. The dog was always watching me. She seemed to be waiting for me to slip up and give her a reason to bite me. I had become practically a prisoner in my own home. I took a sip of beer and looked around the lower floor, but found no sign of the dog. My wife also didn't answer my calls. When I reached the main bathroom, everything started to make sense. The floor was covered with dried blood. There were many places where the blood had spread nearly 2 meters up the wall. I looked around and found a small bag next to my side of the bed. Inside were strange men's toiletries and clothes. Bloody footprints were visible on the rug, and the rumpled bed had plenty of bloodstains. My beer was almost finished, so I went downstairs for another one. As I was opening the bottle, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw a tastelessly dressed man in a cheap suit. Mr. Murr, can I come in and ask you a few questions? I'm Detective Kook. It won't take much time. Are you from Interpol? I asked quickly. No, and I don't care about pirated DVDs. I'm investigating a brutal assault that happened here this morning. Well, since you put it that way, come in. Aren't you the cop who uncovered the murder of Robert Morgan? The one where the guy thought Morgan was sleeping with his wife, but in reality, it was Morgan's wife and the killer's wife who were sleeping with another guy out of revenge because they both had slept with his wife? I asked, recalling the strange situation that all the local newspapers had written about. I didn't exactly uncover it, but I played a significant role in the investigation, the detective admitted modestly. Right now, I'm more interested in the brutal assault that occurred this morning in your bathroom. I assumed you wouldn't return until tomorrow. Yes, that was my original plan, but I finished my business early and flew back this morning. How did you know about my travel plans, and what exactly happened here this morning? I asked the detective. The only thing I've learned is not to ask 2 questions at once, the detective said with a smile, reminiscing about old times. Besides, I'm the one asking the questions here. How long have you had this aggressive dog? I've never had an aggressive dog. Don't you think that damn pit bull bitch you had was aggressive? What kind of guy are you? Damn it, asked the detective. That's 2 questions, I noted. Damn pit bulls are notoriously aggressive, and I'm being quite objective right now. But if pit bulls are aggressive, why do you think your dog isn't like that? Is she half Rottweiler or something? Asked the agitated police officer. And again, 2 questions. Seems like you've gotten into a habit of this, I calmly remarked. I don't have a dog. That should answer both of your questions. So, what the hell chewed up this guy today? A cockroach? Cook exclaimed, his face turning bright red and sweat appearing on his forehead. 2 questions again? Can't you kick that habit, can you? I laughed. Since I wasn't here and have no idea what you're talking about, I can't answer either, though I'm almost certain all the cockroaches around here are quite small and harmless. Damn it, the detective yelled. Why do I get all these morons? Why can't I get a normal case with normal people? Those 2 questions are rhetorical, aren't they? I replied with a smirk. Listen, smart guy, I need straight answers to my questions. No more games, or I'll drag you to the station to continue there, the police officer retorted, pulling out a container of pills from his pocket and taking out a couple of small capsules. Why don't you just ask me a direct question without all your opinions and observations? You want to know about the damn unfortunate dog that lives at this address? I shot back at the red-faced detective. Yes. Do you admit that you have a dog? Cook replied with apparent relief. No, I don't admit it. You don't ask follow-up questions very well, do you? Idiot, the detective yelled, his spit flying around the kitchen. Answering the question you seem incapable of asking. My wife took care of the disgusting bitch belonging to her boss, Tim Conrad, I replied quietly, wiping the spit off the detective's forehead. It was not my dog, and I hated her almost as much as she hated me. Understanding slowly dawned on Cook's face. So, this miserable lowlife bitch lived in your house? Yes, and she insisted the dog stay, so there was little I could do, I replied as my interlocutor showed signs of agitation again. Did you know that Conrad had sexual relations with your wife? The detective asked almost joyfully. I suspected it when Margaret came home with a bitch named Marge that her boss intended to use for breeding, feeling the time was right. There was a lot of symbolism in it, making it quite obvious. They must have thought it was a good joke. That must have really pissed you off, Cook pressed. Not really. I decided to make the most of the situation I found myself in. Apparently, it worked out quite well, at least for me, I added. Tell me, how could you benefit from your wife having sex with her boss, forcing you to live with a damn crazy bitch? The inquisitive detective demanded. I quickly realized that the dog felt no remorse when biting me. I also noticed that she sniffed my private parts every time I got out of the shower. It was a major source of concern for me. It also made me think, if the bitch was interested in my modest appendage, how would she react to a larger specimen? About 4 weeks ago, I bought a large box of sausages at Sam's Club. I took one with me to the shower under a towel, so the dog wouldn't see it. Each time, after showering, I held it near my groin, pretending it was a larger real thing. Marge would snap it up in 2 bites. This became a routine we did every morning. It seems the dog started to like me. And what did your wife think of this training? Asked the disgusted detective. I always showered in the mornings when she was still asleep, so she saw nothing. I hoped to surprise her someday, I confessed. I bet that's exactly what happened. Do you happen to know that Mr. Conrad was endowed with an unusually large phallus? Actually, no, but I suspected it. The last few times I was intimate with my wife, she felt like the Holland Tunnel, I confessed with some embarrassment. Did it never occur to you that if your wife has a lover, and if she lets him stay overnight, and he showers in your bathroom, and if the dog is around, the poor guy's sausage might be at risk? No, that never crossed my mind, I innocently replied. Is this related to what happened this morning? Yes, the dog bit off the guy's sausage and swallowed it. They killed the dog to retrieve the sausage, but it was too damaged to be salvaged. Now the dog is dead. The guy has a 5-centimeter sausage, and your wife is exposed as an adulteress. What the hell do you think about this messed up situation? I suppose you already know the answer to that question, I responded with genuine laughter. Story 2. I returned home at 3 o'clock in the morning after a long trip. The house was empty. On the kitchen table lay an A4 envelope. Curious, I opened it and pulled out the contents. Leafing through the pages, I noticed a letter from my wife, several legal documents, and a divorce application already signed by my wife. I read the letter. My dear David, I feel a little awkward using this term, but despite what I've done to you, I think after 26 years of marriage, you'll allow me this little indulgence. There's no easy way to say this, but I've left you. By the time you read this, I'll have crossed borders and be beyond your reach. I intend to spend the rest of my life lounging in luxury on a beach somewhere in the tropics. Yes, there was another man. His name is Michael, and I know I've found my true soulmate in him. If you could see us together and see how deeply we love each other, I'm sure you'd be happy for me. To give this some emotional closure, I can confirm that yes, I've had sexual relations with him for the past 9 months. No, he's nowhere near as good a lover as you, but our relationship is much more emotional than sexual anyway. He holds me under some sort of control, and I just can't say no to him. It was him who persuaded me to take the financial steps I've taken. Because I still love you, and you don't deserve what I've done, I thought the least I could do is tell you all the details. Firstly, I mortgaged the house and took out $453,000 in cash, which we had. After years of practice, the bank accepted my copy of your signature. Honestly, I left you a signed power of attorney so you could transfer the title of our joint names exclusively to yourself. Secondly, I withdrew $790,000 from all our bank accounts and took them with me. I argued with Michael to let you keep some of the money, but he said no. I'm sorry, Dave, I just couldn't resist him. I also sold my Lexus and got $45,000 from it. Of course, I'm taking all my valuables with me. Thirdly, and this is the most painful, I sold 75% of the shares in our company that Dad left me in his will. You'll still have your 25%, but the new owners on Monday will undoubtedly tell you what awaits you in the future. I don't feel too bad about this because I felt it was mine to sell. I know you wanted to keep it as a foundation for Jody, Ryan, and Pat, but Michael and I need the money. We had to sell the shares cheaply as it was a cash deal and somewhat urgent. I never met the people who bought it as I dealt through an intermediary, so I don't know who they're like. Believe me, I sincerely hope they'll leave you as the manager and Ryan will stay there. We're also taking the $5.8 million that this deal brought us. Don't think all of this is one-sided. Michael also mortgaged his house using the same tactics as I did, and cleared out his bank accounts. He also took all of his wife's valuables, which, as it seemed to me, was a bit cruel. His share is much less than mine, but still amounts to over $1.2 million. The only concession of decency he made to her was leaving her a power of attorney and clean divorce papers. I feel a little sorry for her, but since I never met her, I'll manage. Continuing. Please find attached the divorce application form. My signature is already notarized on it. I don't want you to hope that I'll come back. I'll be happy without you. It seems unfair to me that you'll have to wait 12 months to divorce me because I left you. I expect you to file the application immediately and keep all our assets for yourself. Hopefully, the 25% of the company will provide you with a decent pension. Please convey my best wishes to the kids and, if you can, protect what I've done. I know they never forgave me for that affair 5 years ago, but it'll hurt me never to see them again. When I settle, I'll send my friend Cindy's address, where you can send me letters. I believe she'll never disclose it to you. She doesn't like you from those times you rejected her when she came to you that time. Again, if you can find it in your heart, I'd like to receive photos of any grandchildren we eventually have. After the statute of limitations expires, maybe I'll even come back and see them. I understand if you don't want to see me. Well, I won't play games anymore. You may notice that the bottom of this page is wrinkled. It's from my tears. You don't deserve this, and I sincerely regret my weakness. The only thing that helps me get through this is the thought of spending the rest of my days on the beach in the arms of my true love. Goodbye, my dear David. I'll always lovingly remember you as a remarkable husband, father, and provider. I just regret that I couldn't match your love and loyalty. Kate. I had just finished reading, with a small tear in my eye for the lost 26 years, when the front door opened and Lisa walked in. She looked as exhausted as I felt. She smiled, approached, gave me a heartfelt peck on the cheek, and sat opposite. You're back quickly. Did you get a letter too? Lisa? No letter from Dave, only divorce papers and power of attorney, quite messy. It's terribly disorganized on his part. Well, for that you can thank Kate. Obviously, it was her idea. Well, yeah, 10 out of 10 for decency, but 0 tenths for intelligence. Using such a predictable password on his computer that anyone could read his emails. Silly, isn't it? Probably, he didn't think that in 5 years I'd be peeking over his shoulder. What's in your letter? All predictable crap. She still loves me blah blah blah, found her other half crap, sorry for treating me like crap, and so on, and then she elaborates on exactly how she screwed me over. She knows that 25% of the company won't support any retirement plans in this economic climate. But the biggest noise was when she wrote that she never met you. What do you say about this, Miss Mediator? Lord, don't remind me of that. You know how hard it was to keep a straight face during those negotiations? Third, no matter how much we paid, she just handed over the entire company to you. I know, Liz, I'm so proud of you. By the way, did you lock the doors to the garage? With all this money in the trunk, it's probably the most expensive car in this city. I've never seen anything like it before, worth $8.3 million. Should we go to the bank first or to the lawyers? I told you, silly, the bank opens at 9 a.m., and our appointment with the lawyers is at 10. Hey, I don't want to be late. If any of them decide to divorce before we put our signatures on those papers they so kindly left us, it will complicate everything. Don't worry, Dave. I'm sure Michael won't be discharged from the hospital at least until Thursday, and something tells me that Kate isn't smart enough to understand this. Sorry, don't be offended, Dave. Don't worry about it, Liz. I always knew that she wasn't in my league physically, but intellectually, I left her far behind. We both lapsed into a comfortable silence. I didn't know what Liz was thinking, but my thoughts were about the last time I saw my wife. She stood alone on the roadside. We followed the escape car, about 10 minutes behind them. It seemed like Michael dumped Kate when she got out of the car for some reason at the service station near the border. Liz waved her goodbye. As if reading my thoughts, Liz spoke up. I wonder where she is now. Hopefully, she's safe, in some shelter. Honestly, calling the police to have her arrested for forging signatures was just my way of protecting her from predators out there. I believe you, Dave. Being a considerate gentleman is just one of the things I like about you. By the way, do you think I could sue the bank for allowing her to do that? This way, we'll make a decent profit. Well, Dave, don't be greedy. We've already gotten rid of 2 scammers for free, got 100% of your company back, and retrieved all the money and valuables. What more do we need? After another cozy silence, my concern for my friend prompted me to ask the next question. How are you holding up, Liz? Well, a little sad, but I'll survive. Thanks for asking. Whenever I feel bad about it, I just have to remember Michael's expression when you pushed his car off the road. At that moment, he was within arm's reach of me. It was priceless. You don't think you'll get in trouble for beating him up, do you? I know it's a guy thing, but you really gave him a good thrashing. Why do you think I waited until he crossed the border? Anyway, what do you mean by trouble? For me? Do you mean us? I saw you kick him in the balls at least 8 times. Oh, Dave. Please don't tell me you're one of those old-fashioned types who think a girl shouldn't have a little fun now and then. You didn't tell me you were planning to torch his car. Sorry, it just happened spontaneously. Did you know that if your car is stolen and they return it with the keys, the insurance company won't pay a cent? They say you should take reasonable steps to safeguard your property. However, I removed the GPS tracker from the chassis before lighting it up. When are you planning to file a report for forgery against him? Already done. A few days in the hospital will give them time to sort out the extradition order. He won't get away. Another silence followed. Are you still up for coming with me tomorrow when I explain all this to my kids, Dave? Of course, Liz, it never crossed my mind to let you do it alone. What are friends for? For a few more minutes, we both pondered our own thoughts. Liz's cell phone rang. She answered it and spoke with C. Sorry, I don't speak English very well, she said, then hung up. It seems they found my dear husband. That was his only phone call. After another minute of comfortable silence, isn't it ironic, Dave? They thought they could get our share in our marriages and be free, necessitating a luxurious exile for a few years. Instead, we get their share and our freedom, staying here. Yes, ironic indeed. I'm sure they thought it was a foolproof plan at the time. Speaking of marriage, I penciled in that my 3 monsters will come tomorrow to help with the wedding invitations, but I thought that could wait. Are you still okay with Ryan being the best man? Of course, it's your choice. Damn strange, though, having your son as your best man. You do know it's tradition for the bride to marry the best man if the groom doesn't show up, right? No, I haven't heard of that. But don't worry, wild horses couldn't keep me from you that day. Finally, we had a real kiss. But only for about 5 minutes. We parted, and I looked into the eyes I fell in love with 8 months ago. So, darling, now that we have 2 signatures on the divorce papers, can we go upstairs and finally start our love? You know, Dave, I'm really tempted, but why don't we wait? I'm a bit tired. That way, we can make it really special. But I'll agree to one of your famous nighttime hugs. What do you mean all night? We have to be at the bank in 5 hours. More reason to get some sleep. Damn it, you horny old goat. Following Liz up the stairs, not for the first time wondering what that magnificent body looks like naked, I remembered the question I meant to ask. Have you decided where you want to go for our honeymoon yet, Liz? What about lounging on some tropical beach? Funny you say that, Liz.